Keir Starmer, Granny Harmer, is, all by himself, the embodiment of insincerity. He's not alone, rather he's surrounded himself with others just like him. But I digress. By now we've all heard about the tens of thousands of pounds worth of free clothes for him and the missus from a multi-millionaire Labour donor. We know about the hospitality at football matches as well. More recently, we've heard about how he took £20,000 worth of rent-free accommodation in a fabulously appointed Covent Garden penthouse owned by that same donor, Lord Ali, so that his teenage son could have somewhere nice and quiet to study for his exams. At least one online news outlet has questioned the £20,000 total, suggesting that the rental of such a pad in such a place for the specified period would have a value in excess of six figures, but who knows? Aside from the cost, it's the principle. We have not forgotten how our own children were stuck in their bedrooms, regardless of circumstances, to study for their exams during lockdown. Lockdowns and restrictions that weren't tight enough and didn't start soon enough for the then Labour opposition, in many instances to virtually teach themselves as well. No luxury options for the mass of those kids, rather having to put up with whatever was the reality of their home life, shared bedrooms, no outside space, just lives curtailed by state lies and propaganda. But no matter, apparently, absolutely fine to condemn a generation to damaged educational prospects as long as they're other people's kids, especially the proles' kids. Things being not as they seem, far less what they say, is the reality when it comes to weighing up the difference between what those duplicitous, socially inept clowns say and what they do. As I say, Keir Starmer, Granny Harmer, who joined in the chorus equating refusal to take the unproven jabs with nothing less than killing Granny, is now, by his own policy of withdrawing the cold weather allowance to millions, condemning unknown numbers to death by cold. Insincerity is what Granny Harmer has running in his veins instead of warm blood. But back to those freebies for a minute, not just him. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has had her snout in the trough for thousands of pounds. Deputy Leader Angela Rayner has helped herself to a professional photographer, costing the taxpayer £70,000 to help her look good, or at least better. I read the platitudes about how senior politicians have to look good on the world stage, hence the clothes and glamour shots. And I don't know about you, but a little bit of sick comes into my mouth. We turn to the writings of George Orwell at times like these. And this time, the relevant sentiments are to be found not in 1984, but in Animal Farm. By chapter 3, the revolution has taken place and the animals are working hard, God bless them, fooled by the propaganda from the ruling pigs that they're all in it together. Then it's revealed the pigs are taking all the good stuff for themselves, like the milk and apples. The piggy mouthpiece, Squealer, is sent in to lie to the other animals about why this must be so. Quote, "Our sole object in taking these things is to preserve our health," he says. "Milk and apples, this has been proved by science, comrades, contain substances absolutely necessary to the well-being of a pig. We pigs are brain workers. The whole management and organisation of this farm depends on us. Day and night we're watching over your welfare. It is for your sake we drink the milk and eat those apples. Do you know what would happen if we pigs failed in our duty? Jones would come back." I can't speak for anyone else, but I've wondered from time to time if Orwell wasn't some sort of time traveller. I've wondered if he hasn't been among us listening to the guff about needing to look good on the world stage, which sounds a lot like the appropriation of the substances absolutely necessary to the well-being of a pig, about the necessity of milk and apples for pigs, proved by science, like the science we were all told to trust, about watching over us day and night, which makes me think of surveillance cameras, about the manufactured fear of the old farmer coming back, which sounds like laying plans to make sure the pigs, Labour, are never replaced and the past is memory hold once and for all. I know I'm harping on about it, but the bit about having to look good on the world stage really sticks in my craw. I instinctively expect the cartoon Tory to flaunt the high life made possible by the love of money. I expect them to wear suits and outfits costing as much as annual salaries. I expect them to help themselves to the largesse of their richer mates, holidays in borrowed flash homes and all the rest. But Labour, as I once understood it, are supposed to be cut from different cloth. Labour politicians are supposed to be not above us, but of us. As I say, supposed to be is doing all the heavy lifting there. But still, and here's a thought, even bad actor Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine, bent as a 9-bob note as he appears to be, had the wit to dress down for the part of dear leader in a time of crisis and hardship. Whether it was his own idea or that of the costume department, out went the fitted suits and in came the action man outfit of drab olive t-shirt and combat. A bit of insincere play acting maybe, but at least he was trying. Granny Harmer was out there this week promising hard times ahead for the people of Britain. But will we see hard times for him? He plainly won't go hungry, choosing between eating and heating. Even while mouthing empty platitudes about Israel and Gaza, his mind drifted to sausages, specifically the return of the sausages. Perhaps Lord Ali had had an especially nice box of sausages sent round for his tea, and he was briefly contemplating sending them back for fear of more news stories about freebies. Who knows? Will his family have to make do with what they've got? Or will the lure of luxury in a Covent Garden penthouse pad prove irresistible once again? He won't go cold. He's a millionaire with money to burn. When will we see a politician of integrity, even the effective pretense of integrity? The integrity I'm talking about would see a leader live and do as he or she insists the millions must live and do. It would be no play acting, no empty, meaningless stunts for the cameras paid to print only the most flattering shots. The mass of the people of Britain, of the West, of the world are living through profoundly harrowing times. Physical and mental health forever compromised, if not ended, by a mass, all but mandated medical intervention driven by propaganda and downright lies and backed by no legitimate science whatever. Businesses destroyed, education hobbled and set back years, developmental problems for the youngest, a cost of living crisis biting deep in the aftermath of measures cheered on by left, right and centre that simultaneously completed the greatest transfer of wealth from poor to rich in the entire history of mankind. Murderous war, aided and abetted by our weaponry, by our money, slaughtering hundreds of thousands of people in Ukraine and in the Middle East. At least one US politician grinning maniacally as he signed his name on a missile destined to vaporise civilians deep inside Russia. An immigration free-for-all, deliberately stoked, upending communities, the blatant disregarding of votes cast in notionally democratic countries like France, Germany. All of this and more besides, rattling to the core entire populations of law-abiding, tax-paying people. Always the next crisis hung over our heads. Once great nations like Britain, like the US, like France, like Germany, being sent to hell in handcarts. In such times, would it be too much to ask of a politician tasked with leadership? Would it be too much to ask that that politician demonstrably live as the millions have to, in the way those millions are ordered to by that politician? Wouldn't a sincere leader positively want to share the practical day-to-day circumstances of the people? Would it be too much to ask that he or she at least gets his or her snout out of the trough long enough to look up and see the pain all around? Maybe buy their own clothes, pay for their own accommodation. Here's the thing. Animal Farm and 1984 and Brave New World are being turned right before our eyes from fiction into fact. The pigs are helping themselves to the good stuff while telling the rest of us animals that our hunger is for our own good. So-called socialists are having themselves fitted for designer clothes at others' expense, while Granny shivers to death in her widow's weeds. By their action, by word and deed, Keir Starmer and his ilk make as plain as the snouts on their faces they do not like us. Indeed, they despise us and our everyday hopes. Moreover, they make plain they regard themselves as utterly different from us. At what point did puppeticians and those pulling their strings decide the thing to do was make the lives of their populations worse while openly making their own lives better at every opportunity? Perhaps, more to the point, what morality, what innate sense of what is right and what is wrong has us continue to obey legislation we know, absolutely know, to be iniquitous and plain wrong? Are we, in fact, dishonouring ourselves and our ancestors by not refusing to comply with any more of their corrupted, self-aggrandising and self-enriching nonsense? Are those who cooperate with death-dealing dictators in the right, or are we in the wrong? People are hungry. This is truly a time of famine, and not just for want of food, but for want of meaning. The leaders we are cursed with now are meaningless. The truth is, they are not in charge, not in any meaningful sense. We are. We always are.